Hey, um, I'm making another video after some time. I finished my exams, so I've got some time on my hands to be doing what I feel like doing. And I have another topic a few of my friends and I were actually speaking about, and I think it's a really good topic to talk about. Finding someone is hard, really hard, and in my personal opinion, to be fully realized and capable of loving another person, you must first love yourself. This is something I see that comes up a lot and in my world around me. The reason I say this is because you simply cannot put so much attention, love, and emotion into something if you can't provide that to yourself. And I really understand everyone coming from this perspective. It is such a common thing that even I have experienced. I think now, with schools inputting several events and functions such as public speakers preaching mental health, definitely helps the issue, but in all honesty, not many people or students take these school events into heart. That's why, as hard as it is, majority of the time, the best way to learn even most life lessons is through experiencing it firsthand and overcoming it. When I say that before you can love someone, you must first love yourself, I would like to directly relate this to the idea of confidence, as this encompasses pretty much the whole scenario of this topic. The philosopher Socrates actually wrote quite a lot on the topic of confidence, denoting one of his most famous quotes being, "Know thyself." What Socrates meant with this, in order to exhibit a degree of self love and moral good, you must know yourself on a deeper level. You must analyze your own beliefs, ignorance, strengths, values, and weaknesses to make more informed decisions. I think confidence as a term is much more accurate than the escalated counterpart term of ego or self love, because in my mind, these terms can get very twisted. In my belief, I would say that the idea of confidence is the healthy, processed mindset of ego. If I had to compare the two, I would say that an ego describes someone who is self entitled and will never see themselves doing wrong. Because in their mind, they are such a perfect form in comparison to others that whatever they do is right. An ego describes someone with no humility, for it is known that with humility you can learn the most. For this reason, a person with an ego does not love themselves unconditionally. They love being the quote unquote better version of other people, and of course, meaning that they do not in actuality love themselves, but the idea of perfection of themselves. A person with an ego often does not succeed in finding someone because, as stated, from the very beginning, this person will always put themselves on a pedestal even against their own partner. In their mind, no matter what their significant other may say, they believe that because of their perfect self, all possible criticism is rather hate. If you have an ego, you cannot see the wrong in your own doings. You cannot fathom the idea of accountability, and you cannot fathom the idea of treating someone with the respect they deserve. And through all this, whether you accept it or not, you will only have people ostracize you and discriminate you. And why would you do this to someone you love? Having an ego is one end of the spectrum of self love, aka too much. I would like to mention the other side of this being the self hate. More straightforward and understanding in comparison to having an ego, any someone with self hate obviously does not exhibit signs of healthy love within oneself. I've heard many people say that I don't care what happens to me, I just care about others. And I think this is such a broad mask of altruism that people put over themselves to hide the self insecurities. Because the whole problem with this is that you should care about yourself. And the biggest contradiction being you do not have to hate yourself in order to have the capacity to love others. It can be a fine balance of self love and providing the love to others. When you tip the scale so much to the side of providing love to another person, this becomes an extremely toxic dynamic that will never end well for yourself or another person. Say, for example, you never treat yourself with an adequate health or diet. How could you possibly provide another human with your idea of health and a diet? The whole idea contradicts itself because if you do not provide yourself with something you wish to only provide to others, you either blatantly don't know what it looks like or create a sense of self-deprivation that no one would appreciate. And obviously, as I mentioned, this whole idea is based on a spectrum, and there are people that are much closer to the Goldilocks zone of what I refer to as confidence. As I've also mentioned before, the altruistic mask to hide insecurity, this doesn't have to be such a drastic mask. Everyone has insecurities, just some more and some less, but the main difference to someone I would refer to as confident to someone who isn't is directly related to the person who addresses their own insecurities and the one who doesn't. For example, if person A and B both have the insecurity of their physical health and fitness, and person A does nothing about it whereas person B actively accepts that it is both an issue to their mental and physical health, therefore working on it and exercising, then it is clear that person B is much closer, if not already at a state of loving themselves. Another key takeaway related to the same example is that you can still be progressing towards your goal and still love yourself. It's the idea of intention and motive of doing something rather than the final destination and accomplishment that I would deem this cause for self-love. It's the same way that if someone ran an ultramarathon, you do not congratulate them for wearing a gold medal, but rather the amount of kilometers they had to run and the training they had to take in order to achieve it. Now, I have explained the idea of too much love to the point of egotism, and also the idea of not enough to the point of self-loathe. The idea of confidence that I want to explain and urge people to reach is the whole topic of how you find someone to love, and that's in the Goldilocks zone that I refer to. Compared to an egotistical person or a self-loathing person, a person with confidence is someone that can have both insecurities as well as pride in what they are good at. But what's important is the pure visibility they exhibit with this. I can say for certain that someone worth loving will appreciate someone open about their progress as well as humble about their capabilities much more than if they were constantly drowning in insecurity and contrarily self-perfection. In my opinion, if you eventually find confidence within yourself, you will find capability and motive to love someone else just as much as you love yourself. This love is further defined by providing respect but also accountability, providing freedom but also discipline. As such, it is a balance. I would even go as far as to say that if you develop the love within yourself, you may long for affection and a human connection in your life. However, it is much less of an obsession recursing through your actions. Being confident means to be trusting in yourself and defined by independence and self-preservation. Overall, I would say that everyone in this world deserves love, but only after they have done the work for themselves that would be necessary. Because all in all, who would love someone that wouldn't put in the work for themselves, let alone other people adequately? Holy shit.